Frank Brady, Chairman of Monaghan IFA, is joining us now. Frank, you're based up in a region that is quite exposed on the whole Brexit debate, and there's a lot of uncertainty around what's going to happen around the border issue. We're not much further on, as we can see from the Salzburg talks yesterday, but we're 6 months out from Brexit. What's the feeling like on the ground where you are?
There's a fear that we're going back to the old days of when there could be border checks, and even if they bring in paperless checks, they're still going to put an hour delay on anybody going through. Plus the cost is going to put on extra cost of having to do all this paperwork. 700 milk lorries a day across the border, 300 on Christmas Day. So if they're all delayed by 10-15 minutes, you're talking about a lot of time here, and people are beginning to get worried. 400,000 lambs come down to be slaughtered in Ireland, so the lamb factories wouldn't be efficient without those lambs. And worry and sell, there's 400,000 pigs go up to be slaughtered, and there wouldn't be any capacity to kill the pigs if they were stopped going up. That's just two things. The milk is over and back. I think Bailey's cream could go over and back the border 7 times. Definitely 5 and maybe 7 before it actually becomes the liqueur that we want it to be. So we're in a very unknown property, and we don't know where we're going, and we need to know soon, because it's very, very difficult to try and budget for anything. People don't know whether we're going to have border checkpoints, whether we're going to have customs. You know, it's a worrying time.
At the same time, the government and the EU are saying that they're not going to agree to anything until the backstop issue is sorted, until the border issue is sorted. Are you confident that the area will be protected, that there will be a kind of a soft deal on all that?
Not at all, because I think if the German or the French or the bigger powers decide that they want to cost them getting their cars into England, they'll do a deal, and they'll drop Ireland very quickly and move on. And they'll tell us, they'll try and compensate us in other ways, but you can never compensate us for time and the quality of life. There's farmers there with farms on both sides of the border. How are they going to react?
So are you bracing yourselves for a hard deal?
No, we're still hopeful that people will see the light, and that the Brexiteers will realise that they're not going to win by this, and they might even change their mind, or maybe realise that they need Europe a lot more than they realise they do.
What about just plans for the future in the region, the future farming in the region, plans for expansion, plans for the next generation? Has that all kind of been thrown up in the air with this? No,
people are living their lives, and they're not letting this affect them, and they're doing whatever they would normally be doing, and they're planning for their succession rates, whatever way they're going to be. So, yeah, people are getting on with their lives. The Monaghan people and the Cavan people are very, very, very good at finding solutions to problems, and whatever problem comes, we will find a solution for it. Mightn't be the one we want, but we will find a solution to it, and then we learn to live and work around that.
And Frank, you're a pig farmer yourself.
Yes, one of yeah.
And can you just tell me a bit about your holding at home?
It's an average size pig farm in Ireland now. God be with the days when it would be very big, but now we're down to average, and we produce up in 350 pigs a week, you know, so we sell them. At the minute we're selling them at a loss, unfortunately, because the price of grain has gone one way and the price of pig meat has gone the other way. Now pig meat has gone up 4 cents today, which will make about €1,000 of a difference to my budget next week. But it's a difficult place to be. It's the same as beef farming. When we start to produce too much, and when we go above the 100% threshold, the prices drop for no reason other than the supermarkets feel they can, and they try and get it and have 2 for 1 or 3 for 2 or whatever the case may be. And who pays for that? The farmer pays for that. The same as in beef. Milk is at the minute is pretty scarce. It's not at 100% production, but when it does, we've seen it happen before when milk dropped down to 18, 19, 22 cents a litre and farmers lost their shirt. Since then, the dairy farmer has invested really big time on their farms. They've put a lot of money into, some have gone to robots, some have gone new parlours. So if that was to happen, there would be a lot of anxious farmers in Ireland, not just in Monaghan and Cavan, because they've invested so much money.
And what about just supports and security for the pig sector? As you mentioned, the volatility at the moment, you know, it's a very difficult situation. The price of feed is very high. How much of a priority do you think the pig sector is in the overall agricultural picture in Ireland?
For an industry that is the third highest exporting of meat in Ireland, it's probably not as high a priority as it should be. I feel it doesn't probably get some of the services or supports that it should get. We don't have any cap payments, we don't have anything like that. We survive by, if we sell and they make a profit, we survive. If we sell and they make a loss, if that loss is sustained, well then we sell up or we move on. So is there supports? Not really, no. It's getting more and more difficult all the time. Slurry has become an issue. The price of grain, and the price of grain itself is probably right. The farmer that grows that has to get a margin, but there's other people in between that are probably getting too much of a margin.
And also you have threats such as the African swine fever as well. Recently there are a lot of concerns about that it might travel over here. That's another challenge, a looming challenge.
Another challenge at the minute it probably could help us, because if it's in China at the minute and it's now arrived in Belgium and it has been in certain places in Europe, it's very, very, very hard to kill. It travels very quickly. It's a mite that comes in. So where are we going with the swine flu? It could save my business in the next year or two, because pig meat might get scarce. But I've always worked on the theory that the higher the valley, the lower the mountain. The higher the mountain, the lower the valley. So that if we go and get a fantastic price, you'll probably find in 2 years' time we're back in it again, because everybody has increased production, have got slightly bigger, and we're back to producing too much pigs. I'd rather, if we could stay where we are, just produce enough. Everybody produce enough so that the farmer gets a fair margin and the supermarkets have to pay rather than wanting to pay.
Under the reform of the Common Agricultural Policy, where we're going to get, if it all goes through, it's proposed legislation at the minute, but would you be pressing for supports to come in for the pig sector, because we're going to have greater autonomy to
There's no point in doing that. It's the same as the chickens. They're seen as standalone. They're seen as commercial farming, and I think they'll be left alone to have to support themselves. And plus, there's only 242 pig farmers in Ireland left, so you wouldn't be supporting. You're only supporting some of the bigger people. I would much rather see that support going to the small family farm that needs the support, that needs this money to give it to support their children, to educate their children, and maybe in some cases even feed their children. So I would much rather, if the small farmer that needs it in Monaghan and Cavan, and the dairy farmer that needs it, some of them are small as well, and let those people be supported. I would like to see the bigger people out of the loop. But there's very small people in the CAP reform. There's only, I think it's 1 or 2% are really big farmers. The rest are deservingly cases and need what they're getting and possibly need more.
Frank, that's all we have time for. Thanks very much for coming in to us.
You're welcome.